Hi there. Welcome to this final solo episode of Performance Cafe on a Friday, where next week we will start our Coffee Companion series again. And today you'll see I'm sitting in a slightly different version of the Performance Cafe, right? It's a little bit more modern. It is a little bit cooler in color. And so I've had this for a while, but I got so used to having my previous background that I was using, and I really felt comfortable. I love the wood. I love the leather. It's just who I am. And I've got a couple of these actually lying around. And I've had this around for a while and sort of initially thought, well, I need one to start with, and I'll just see what I do with the rest. And then I got really comfortable with the original version. And then it was kind of like, well, people are now used to it. Should I change? Should I not change? And I thought today was just the perfect episode to talk or to bring about a change in background for the Performance Cafe. And the reason that this has happened is because coming back in January, we are now in the situation where COVID didn't go away. And we've got to start seriously looking at accepting that this is the new normal, but that the new normal shouldn't just be the new normal anymore. It should just be our normal now. But how do we get there? It still feels a little bit strange. I think we finally all gave up on the concept that, there's going to be going back to the old normal. I think we've moved on off of that. Normally it only takes 21 days to change your routine. We went to lockdown in South Africa at the end of March last year, and being almost at the end of Jan, we've almost been in this change or in this state for a year. So actually, this is now just the normal. And so many clients will come to me, whether they're coaching clients, whether they are business clients looking for consulting work in performance. They'll come to me and they'll say to me, but how do we make this change? How do we get people to change? Because people are just so hooked on, we're going to go back to normal and it's going to be okay. And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce a nice model. I don't want to call it easy. I think it's elegant. I don't think change is ever easy. And I don't think it's a simple model. I just think it's as elegant as it needs to be. And this is the change model of Kurt Lewin, and he designed this around about the 1940s. But I think he got a particular point right that I think we so often miss. He has got the first step, which is unfreeze. Then he's got the middle step, which is change. And then he's got the last step, which is refreeze. And I think this is something we don't understand, is that behavior is dictated by years and years of lessons, of experiences, of even reinforcement of things like stereotypes, beliefs, prejudices, but also just general norms and what we can and what we can't do. And I want to give you an example of this in that a friend of mine was watching a TV program, and when we had been in lockdown for a couple of weeks, and we were still at the point where it was new and incredibly scary. It felt like, this apocalyptic sort of environment. The streets were quiet, If you ever went to the shops, which you didn't do, you maybe did once a week instead of now every other day or whatever. It was really weird. There's no other way. And it was scary. And in South Africa, it was the first time that we had gotten used to the concept of people walking around in masks. And there were two events that really stand out for me. The one was a friend of mine watched something on TV, and she said to me, do you know that my first reaction to this was, why don't these people wear masks? Why? Because she'd already gotten unfrozen, changed, and frozen. That perception had moved incredibly quickly with her. And she was like, I know I'm watching a program from 5 years back, but still, my initial knee-jerk reaction was, why don't they have on masks? And I had the exact opposite. I remember standing one day in a queue because of, the limiting of the numbers within shops. I was standing in the queue, and it was my weekly grocery shopping. And I stood in the shop and I looked around, and all of a sudden I had a flashback to so many video clips showing people from China just naturally always being in masks when they're outside. And I remembered thinking, how weird. Why? Because what was frozen with me was a healthy living environment, was not overpopulation that was giving a raise to causes for wearing masks outside. And so I wanted to show you how where we are frozen, we need to be unfrozen. We need a change, and we need to then refreeze. And this takes time. And change, the pain of change, is that unfrozenness, is getting those things unfrozen, getting us to understand that X, Y, Z is no longer the same. And then creating the change and putting the positioning there so that people understand that this is the new norm and it's good for us. And then to freeze so that people understand this is the new way of being. It's not going to last a minute or a day or a week or whatever. This is now the new change. So I hope my explanation of Kurt Lewin's model, by the way, very many resources on the internet, so please feel free to go and Google it. I hope that provided a bit of insight, and then I hope that it helps you set up your company for change so that the new normal gets adjusted to and we can get back to the business of business. So until next Tuesday, when we have our next Tuesday solo, those will continue. I say happy Friday, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And then we'll be talking to Renata Chute in our first Coffee Companions for 2021 next Friday. Have a good one.